Before we get into it, though, consider leaving a like, subscribe if you are new. I will obviously leave all of his stuff linked down in the description below. And we're going to just kick this off right away. He's going to read his 20 through 16. I'll read mine, and then we're going to talk about some of these guys. So who do you have as your 20 through 16?
Well, first off, I'd like to say hello. It has been a few weeks. New York City needs its power through a heat wave, so I apologize for that. Last time I was in this video, I didn't have a beard, so I look about 10 years older than the last time.
Fair.
I just want to let that be known. I'm excited for this top 20. You get an extra 5 out of us today. I know you've been itching for a top 20 ever since the linebackers, so I know I know you've wanted to do this. So when you came to me this week and you were like, let's do a top 20, I was like, you know what? All right, we'll give it to him. We'll do the top 20. But I'm super excited for this. We have a little bit of conflicting lists, which I always like to have. It's always good to not be yes men to each other. So my 20 through 16, Zachariah Branch, Hudson Clement, Jeremy Bernard, Carnell Tate, and Nick Harbor. And you have quite compared to mine, you have quite an interesting 20 to 16, I must say.
Yeah, number 20, I've got Jaden Greathouse out of Notre Dame. At number 19, I have Dion Burks out of Oklahoma. At number 18, I've got Zachariah Branch out of Georgia. I think that's the only name that we both have in this tier.
Right.
17, I've got Eric Rivers out of Georgia Tech. And at 16, I've got Caleb Douglas out of Texas Tech. So let's kick this off with Hudson Clement, a guy that was, I believe, the last receiver that I watched take the floor. What did you see from Clement, and how do you think he's going to fare for this Illini offense?
Well, I'm super excited. I mean, I don't know if – I mean, I know that you know this. Maybe the viewers don't know this, but I have a little bit of a soft spot for the Fighting Illini. I think that they have been a very, very quiet factory of talent to the NFL the last 5 years or so, especially on the defensive side. They lost a lot. They lost Zachariah Franklin. They lost Pat Bryant last year, which is Luke Altmaier's 2 top targets last year. You know, that's coming from a team that finished in the top 25, had 10-plus wins for the first time since 2001. That was a lot to lose for them. But getting Hudson Clement is a huge get for them. Brett Bielema really knows how to develop talent. They don't necessarily get huge names through the transfer portal. They don't really recruit elite talent either, but they really know how to develop it. And Hudson Clement is someone that is coming off of a 794 7-touchdown season with the West Virginia Mountaineers, and he's going to step right in. I mean, that's a lot to replace Pat Bryant last year, had 981 yards, 10 touchdowns, but I think he is going to be able to fit the mold. So one thing that I liked that kind of stood out with this Fighting Illini team, why I think it's such a good fit, is the blocking ability. Clement isn't the best blocker out there, but he's not a complete liability, so I like that a lot. 6'1", 205 pounds. He's in that little bit of a middling between the Pat Bryant and the Franklin type of frame.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's one of those guys that I feel like we're going to classify a couple other wide receivers in this class that's really good at a lot of things, but not elite at any of them really. Yeah. But like you said before we were recording, and you kind of fit it to a T, Hudson Clement is someone that's like a watered down or a Wish Walmart version of Ladd McConkey. And no, it is not because he lacks melanin in his skin tone. It is basically, you see the fast footwork, you see the good route running ability, you see the strong hands, and this is a player that I think is going to be really exciting. He's currently my 19. He could be one of those guys that comes up into that 15, top 12 range when it's all said and done. I think he's going to be a fantastic addition for Luke Altmaier and Brett Bielema.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I love the footwork. I thought he had really quick feet. He definitely knew how to run routes at a high level. Ultimately didn't end up making my list, but I could see the vision, and like I said, I do see some of those Walmart Ladd McConkey comparisons. Another guy that is a bit of a surprise, I think, for the viewers, Jeremy Bernard didn't make my list. Talk about what you liked about Jeremy Bernard and kind of where you think he will be best at the next level.
So I like him for a couple reasons. It's more of the intangibles. Mm-hmm. The size is nice. 6'1", 202 is nice middling size where he could bounce out wide. He could play in the slot. The press, he's probably one of the better receivers in this class against the press, I would say. Quick release, decent enough speed to the point where he is quick but not necessarily really, really fast. Great hands as well. I believe he dropped like 1 or 2 passes last season. So really, really good hands as well. really, that's all I kind of like about him. To be quite honest with you, I could see the vision. I could see being strong against the press gets you so far at the collegiate level, and especially with the NFL talent evaluators as well. If you're good, you're strong. That's another thing too. I should have mentioned. He's a strong wide receiver. His play strength is very, very good against the press, and really that's half the battle at the NFL level. Smart type of wide receiver as well. Decent enough route running ability. I think all the intangibles are there for him to succeed at the NFL level. He's not going to be someone that I think is going to be, one of those bust out candidates where he's going to crack your top 10, but he's going to be someone that's solid, probably in that fourth, fifth, sixth round range that, like a Jordan Whittington type of wide receiver where he's going to make an impact on your roster. And I do like the speed and press ability of Bernard.
Yeah, again, I agree with what you said. I think we probably differ a little bit on the athleticism. I thought he was a good.
Well, just because he's fast doesn't mean that he's athletic. There's not,
I thought he was not a great athlete, but one thing that I will say was I think he was really impressive at. He was really smart against zone coverage. I thought he settled very nicely into the soft spots of zone. He knew where to go. So I do like that about him. He was one of those. It was like a three-way tie between Greathouse and a couple of others that I'll get to at the end of the video. So he was like right in that mix. Ultimately, I ended up going with Greathouse over Bernard, who we'll get to later in the video. But I'll talk about Eric Rivers now. Eric Rivers transferring from Florida International to Georgia Tech. So we've talked about this on previous videos. The transfer up is always a good thing to see. He's going to a higher level of competition. Really interesting story. I didn't actually know this about him, but he was a former walk-on at Memphis as a cornerback, played 2 years there, ended up leaving there, and then walked on to FIU as a wide receiver. He was phenomenal last year for the Panthers. 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns, averaged almost 19 yards per reception. This is a guy that I think has a lot of what you're looking for in a modern slot. The speed is phenomenal. I think he's got excellent burst off the line of scrimmage. And I thought he was a really solid route runner. He definitely knew how to generate separation, and I love that about him. But because he is smaller, he's 5'11", 175, you're probably going to view him simply as just a slot receiver. When he was lined up outside, he did struggle against press coverage. He was pushed around very easily. Comes from a smaller competition level, so how he fares against ACC corners is going to be very important to see. If he's up to the task, I think this is a guy that can easily be in your top 10 receivers. But the other area of his game that I do worry about a little bit is a guy who had 7 drops in 2024. He's going to have to clean that up. Overall, I think he is a dynamic player. He's really good with the football in his hands. He can get him the ball in space. He can be a vertical threat from the slot, which I absolutely love. It's just more question marks on how is he going to look against better competition. I like him quite a bit. I believe I had him at 17.
Yes.
Yeah, 17. But very curious to see kind of how this year looks for him at Georgia Tech.
The one thing, and we talk about this all the time, the step up. Love the step up from Rivers. Only problem is I feel like this is one of the worst offenses for a wide receiver to step up into because, like you said before, this is the big reason why Singleton transferred out. And kudos to Georgia Tech on going out and probably getting one of the better transfer wide receivers in the FBS and Rivers to replace someone like Singleton. But, that 1,100 yards is probably going to drop down to 600-700. And you're going to, box score watchers are going to be like, oh, well, he didn't have as good of a season. But stiffer competition, a little bit more of a run, or especially with Jamal Haynes King as your backfield, your primary backfield, you're going to be a more run-oriented offense. But I agree with you. This is a typical slot gadget type of wide receiver at the NFL level. You're going to have to deal with the slight hands problem, but a little bit of some of them are concentration drops. So I'm not really, he's not Quentin Johnston out there. Yeah. Concentration drops are a totally different thing. And yeah, I think he's dynamic. I'd love to see him get the ball in his hands behind the line of scrimmage at Georgia Tech if that's how they're going to get the ball in his hands.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be very interesting to see how they use him because they didn't use their receivers all that well last year. One player that we both have in this range is former USC, current Georgia Bulldog, Zachariah Branch. This is a guy that last year when Caleb Williams was eligible, he was a big talking point for USC's offense. and I just don't think he had the season that many people were expecting. So take it away. What did you see with Zachariah Branch?
One thing that I like about him is the twitchiness.
Yeah.
The quickness in and out of cuts, change of direction is really strong for Branch. It's something that you could say you could almost model his game around, where he's going to be that twitch, slot wide receiver at the next level, or even at Georgia. Georgia, I'll be honest with you, has really, for a team over the last few years that hasn't had the most exemplary wide receiver room, the transfer wide receivers they got this year, it's turning it's not Arian Smith and Dominic Lovett, that's for sure. This is going to be a very, very potent offense for Gunnar Stockton for sure. They have surrounded him with some talent, but Branch is someone that I like as more of an athlete, more of that quick twitch gadget type of wide receiver, almost like an Eric Rivers, but not really. If you get what I'm saying, 5'10", 180 pounds. The burst is good. The speed for someone that's 5'10", 180 pounds is as quick twitch as he is. What didn't blow me away is good speed. He didn't seem like an actual true burner to me. The pieces are there. I think that he's going to flourish in this Georgia offense that likes to use the slot quite a bit. He's probably going to be your starting slot wide receiver, especially with Noah Thomas being that bigger type of body on the outside. Another transfer wide receiver we'll get into later that I'm quite enamored with, who left my beloved Aggies. But yeah, Branch is someone that I could see the vision. I think some of the tools are there. As long as he plays within himself, I think he's going to be fine at the next level.
Yeah, I disagree about the true burner part, because I thought that was the one area of his game that I felt the most confident with. I was like, this guy, if he can run in a straight line, I think he is one of the most dynamic athletes in the entire country. Former track star in high school that was really good. He's made great contributions on special teams for a USC in the past, but just some of the advanced numbers on him were kind of alarming. Had a 20% contested catch rate, which, look, I know he's undersized, but 20%, not very good. I also just didn't think that his route running was that good. He is twitchy. He just wasn't a guy that ran a very diverse route tree. They didn't.
Yeah. Well, twitchy, there's a lot of things that go into it. I mean, twitchy doesn't mean you're a good route runner. Being quick doesn't mean that you're fast. There's a lot. It's a multifaceted thing, and I do agree with you that the route tree was very, very limited. I mean, a Lincoln Riley route tree is not very diverse anyway. But I think at Georgia, I think hopefully he'll have some development as, I don't know. I really didn't see true burner when I watch. I don't know. I maybe I'll have to go back and look. Like I said, just to put a pin in it, I did go through my wide receivers in 3 separate batches, so it could have been so long ago that maybe I'm just forgetting. But I don't know. I didn't have it on my notes as a true burner, but yeah, I mean, he's a good athlete. I mean, that's really all that I have for him for the most part, as the big catch, good change of direction, twitchiness, gets you far.
And I have him here just below Rivers, betting on the athleticism, but I'd like to see a little bit more nuance in his game moving to Georgia. But let's talk about our 15 through 11 now. So I'll start here. At 15, I've got CJ Daniels from Miami. We'll have a conversation about him later on in the video. 14, I've got Chase Roberts from BYU. 13, I've got Eugene Wilson III out of Florida. At 12, I have Nick Harbor out of South Carolina. And at number 11, I have Nick Anderson out of LSU. So who do you have in your 15 through 11?
At 15, I have J. Michael Sturdivan from Florida. At 14, I have Dion Burks. 13, I have Jaden Greathouse. 12, I have Caleb Douglas. And 11, I have Malachi Fields.
So we each have a Florida receiver. We don't have the same Florida receiver here. So you start here. What did you see from J. Michael Sturdivan? He is transferring in from UCLA.
So we talked about this off camera because we think he has quite an interesting name. That was the first talking point. But yeah, Sturdivan is someone that I think is a vertical receiver. I mean, I think he's going to be perfect for this Florida offense and DJ Lagway. I think they're going to get the ball down the field quite a bit. I think that he is the perfect frame, 6'3", 216 pounds, around there. Big frame for the speed and the burst were really, really big for me. Blocking ability is there as well. Don't know how much we're going to see wide receivers block in this offense, but it is there for the most part. That's what I like about him is the size, speed, overall contested catchability. I think he was a little disappointing. Well, UCLA as a whole were pretty disappointing last year, but I think he was a little disappointing. He gets a fresh start at Florida for a team that's hungry to, get to a college football playoff maybe one of these days soon. So I think he's going to play with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I think that this offense is pretty much catered to him and Eugene Wilson. I know we're going to get into it. I liked Eugene Wilson. I just think that there wasn't enough really to put him in a top 20 on. Mm-hmm. But that's someone that is not too far outside of the top 20. But yeah, Sturdivan is an interesting player. As long as he could use his size to his advantage. I mean, the speed is totally there. The ability to separate it is there. So as long as he could kind of, continue to develop that aspect of his game, I think he'll be fine for this. And now you're going to get, believe it or not, it's crazy to say, UCLA, he was playing there. He's going to get more eyes on him here at Florida. So, it'll be interesting to see. And he's going to have another really good wide receiver on the other side of him too.
And that other really good wide receiver is Eugene Wilson III. Eugene Wilson, as a true freshman, was dynamic for Florida. 61 receptions, 544 yards, had 6 touchdowns on the year. They used him out of the backfield.
61 receptions, 544 yards is
he was a guy that a lot of people had really high hopes for entering last season. And he only played in 4 games for Florida, 19 receptions for 266 yards and 1 touchdown. There are some traits here with Eugene Wilson that are really, really exciting. Another guy that's maybe a little undersized. You'll notice a bit of a theme here. He's 5'10", 183. But when he has the football in his hands, the shiftiness, the ability to make guys miss in the open field, he's just dynamic. He's excellent in the open space. He's really quick when breaking out of his routes. We'll get to that in a second. I also just love his hands. This is a guy that throughout his college career so far, he's been targeted 97 times. He has 0 drops in his college career. You'll love to see that. A guy that has a 50% contested catch rate throughout his career, which for slots, that's a pretty good number to have.
What's his average depth of target?
Yeah, that's where we're going to get into now, because that was the one area that really concerned me. Throughout his career, he has a 3.6 yard average depth of target. A lot of these plays are screens, short crossers, maybe slants. He really didn't run a very diverse route tree, and that does worry me a little bit. He's got a smaller frame. He had some struggles against press, and I don't really know what he's going to look like post-injury. He looked fantastic before the injury. Let's see how he looks with a full season with DJ Lagway. Let's see him showcase that athleticism a little bit more, because I think talent-wise, he's probably a top 10 receiver. Just, again, need to see a little bit more nuance in terms of his route running. I love the hands. I love the quick twitch route running upside. Let's just see him actually do it. So I have him at 13. I'm betting on the athleticism and the traits, but definitely a name that I'm really excited to watch this season for the Gators. Next up, we got Jaden Greathouse, my number 20 receiver. Your number, I want to say you had him at 13.
I think it was 13. Yeah, I forget so easily.
So what did you like about Greathouse? You obviously have him a little bit higher than I did.
I love this. First off, the size 6'1", 210 is. If you gave me like an ideal wide receiver, where like obviously if you were like, what's your ideal height for a wide receiver? I'd be like, yeah, 6'8". Of course, you want someone that's like huge. But I'm talking in terms of being able to do everything as a football player. I would say probably 6'1", 6'2" is probably like right in my range, 210 pounds, where you have enough athleticism unless you're a freak of nature like Nick Harbor. But, hands was a huge thing for him. Greathouse has great hands. Jaden Great Hands, rename him to that. But great hands, really good blocking ability. Someone that is just takes. I know you hate that I just said that. That I just Jaden Great Hands. I know you don't like the dad jokes, but no, his blocking ability is great as well. He seems like someone that is very team first oriented, but also will be willing to come across the entire field to throw a block. Like, I love the leadership, the tenacity, and his just able to make plays for other people while not having the football in his hand is a big thing for me. The speed, release, burst actually wasn't that bad. I don't think it was great. It's not top tier, But I think for what it is, a 6'1", 210-pound wide receiver, I think it's very good. I think he's going to excel against zone coverage. He's going to excel in the red zone. He knows how to use his body very, very well.
Yep.
He knows how to box out defenders. I think this guy is a lot better than people are giving him credit for. And I think that he's going to shine. This Notre Dame offense has a ton of wide receivers that we could have made a top 10 wide receiver list off Notre Dame wide receivers themselves this year. They're loaded at the wide receiver position. But I think Greathouse is kind of under the radar, and I think he's going to show a lot of people who he is this year.
Yeah, I liked a lot of the things that you said. I like the willingness as a blocker. I wanted to see him connect a little bit more. I thought there were a lot of whiffs at times, which it happens. That was kind of one of the notes that I had on him. I just didn't – he was a good, not a great athlete. I think he's probably going to be a big slot at the next level. I just don't know if he's got the dynamism as an athlete to thrive on the outside. But you mentioned it. The ability that he has to box out defenders and just win those 50-50 balls. His contested catch rate last season was 84.6%. That's a ridiculous number. This is a guy that knows how to high point the football. He plays big, really strong at the catch point. And I loved that he worked the middle of the field. He was really good at just stretching the seam vertically. I like a lot of the things about him. I think I have around a 4th round grade. I don't know. He could definitely up that this year. We'll see how C.J. Carr looks for Notre Dame this year, an offense that probably will pass the ball a little bit more if I had to guess. But, yeah, Greathouse is a really fun one. And I had him right at 20, but I expect him to be higher at the end of the year. Dion Burks, a guy that we talked about it with who do we talk about it with? Was it Zachariah Branch, the quick, not fast?
Yeah.
That's kind of the note that I had on Dion Burks. There's a lot that I love about Dion Burks. He is again, I said you'll notice a theme in this. He's 5'9", 189 pounds. Not the biggest guy in the world. But he's just a guy that I love his first step. I thought the burst was solid. He's pretty elusive after the catch. His hands are really, really good for a smaller receiver. Just one drop last season on 42 targets. He dealt with some injuries last season for Oklahoma. Didn't necessarily have the season that many were hoping, but I just think he's one of the better route runners in the class. I think he knows how to separate at a pretty high level. He's great after the catch. I think he knows how to make guys miss. He can blow by guys. I don't think he's got crazy burners similar to what you said about Zachariah Branch, but I think the footwork and the quickness and the ability to just juke guys is top tier in this draft class. So Burks, I think, is an overall really solid slot. I had him at number 19. I have him a little bit lower than I have Branch and Rivers. He's kind of right in that tier. You liked him a little bit more, though, so what did you see from him?
Yeah, I thought, well, first off, like you said, it's such a common trend. This is a very interesting draft class where you have X wide receivers and like gadget slot guys, and it's like no in between. There's no like, you have monsters among men, and then you have these tiny pipsqueak guys, and you got, like you said, Burks 5'9", 189, but he plays a strong 189. That's what I like as well. The body control is big for me. Like you said, good hands, good burst, speed, release, like all those, the release package is good. The separation ability is there as well. Plays to the separation of someone much bigger and stronger than he is. That's really what I liked. I felt like every time I saw a highlight of his or I saw a route of his that he got targeted, I feel like there was good enough separation to where, I was like, all right, this guy's getting open at a good clip. Like you're not squeezing, you don't have to squeeze the ball into a tight window every single time. But yeah, the blocking ability actually isn't bad either. This is just, I feel like the reason I had him a little bit lower is because I feel like there are just better slot options in this draft. So like, let's take last year, which wasn't really a strong draft class for wide receivers, for example. He'd probably be a lot higher for me, to be quite honest with you. But it's just, I feel like there's better slot options. He's very, very solid. I feel like whoever gets a Dion Burks type of player, especially if he has like a 65 catch, 700 plus yard season, I feel like he's right in that 3rd, 4th, 5th round range where what you see is what you get. You're going to get a very, very solid slot wide receiver out of him. Maybe like a bigger Tank Dell almost like out of Dion Burks.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's a really solid slot. Caleb Douglas out of Texas Tech. Another one of these guys that I was a little bit late to when I was doing my watching. Really fun player. So take the field here. What do you like about Caleb Douglas?
Yeah, kind of like the contrary to what we just talked about, Dion Burks. You got Caleb Douglas, who's a 6'4", 210-pound X type of wide receiver at the next level. I thought that the speed and the burst for someone his size was really nice. Separation, he was getting consistent separation as well. To whereas the press, and so he's kind of like backwards what you would think like a 6'4", 210-pound receiver is, where like physically, I don't think he's as strong as he could be.
Mm-hmm.
At 6'4", 210, I feel like he kind of gets pushed around to the line of scrimmage a little bit. His release is kind of slow for the most part, but I think contested catchability, body control, route running ability is there. I would like to see a little bit more from Caleb, a little bit more of a blossom into someone that is 6'4", 210 pounds. I want to see you throw that weight around. I want to see you use that height to more of an advantage. So to me, he's more of a little bit of a ball of clay. Yeah. Whereas I'd love to see him kind of just develop a little bit more of those 6'4" traits. Hands were good too. I didn't think they were necessarily spectacular, but you throw him the ball, he's going to catch it. I don't think he has a crazy big catch radius for 6'4". That's another thing too. So I would just like to see it's all there. And Texas Tech, you spoke about it in your previous video. I think I'm very high on Texas Tech as well. They're going to be eyes on Caleb Douglas. So, as long as he can continue to develop, I think you're looking at a top 100 type of player at the next level.
Yeah, and I agree with all of that. I think his athleticism is really impressive. I thought that he did have good burst. He showed real promise as a route runner and the ability to get out of routes quickly and get open, especially along the sideline. I thought when working back towards the sideline, he was really good. High pointed the football pretty well. I do agree he struggled against press. His release package was not very good. There definitely is room for him to improve, but like you said, I think he will, because this Texas Tech team has a lot of they've got national championship aspirations legitimately, and I think he's going to be a big focal point of that offense. So I had him at number 16, I believe. You had him at number 12, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just outside of my top 15. Nick Anderson, you don't have Nick Anderson on your list. I was a little bit late to the party with him. I did not like him last year. Going into last year, I thought he might come out. Was not a big fan. I definitely have changed my sentiment on that. I think he's a really well-rounded prospect. But talk to us really quickly about what you saw from Nick Anderson if you looked at him.
Oh, of course. I had high aspirations for him, and now I have even higher aspirations for him now that we're going to see him at LSU. I feel a little bit better about him at LSU. I feel like he's going to take, a big step forward as a prominent wide receiver there. But I don't know. I don't want to say disappointed, but I expected more out of Nick Anderson, especially for some of the numbers that he's had in his collegiate career. You think to yourself, you're like, all right, I know what I'm kind of getting myself into if you look at his career stats. And then I watched and I was like, you know what, I'm not really that impressed. I feel like there are 20 wide receivers better than him in this draft class as of right now. So I hope he proves me wrong. Just left a little bit disappointed, but I would like to know where do you have him? 11, right?
I think I had him at 12. Yes, I think I have him 11. 11.
So I'm very interested to see what you saw in him to have him so high.
Well, last year, for one thing, he's coming off an injury. He only played in one game last year for Oklahoma, and he didn't even really play in that game for them. So you kind of put last year, you kind of throw that away, and you go back to his sophomore season where he was really productive for Oklahoma. Had 796 yards. He had 10 touchdowns. Some real promise in there. A 16.1 average depth of target. Really solid number there. There are things that you want to see improve. Just a 25% contested catch rate. Had 6 drops on that year. But similarly to Caleb Douglas, I think Nick Anderson is a big receiver with really good quickness. I think he gets out of breaks really well. He has really good burst off the line of scrimmage, and I thought he had the ability to separate deep, maybe a little bit better than a guy like a Caleb Douglas. I thought when he got the ball in space, he was pretty good after the catch. A guy that had 275 yards after the catch in 2023, which you like to see that. I thought he was pretty smart against zone coverage. He settled well in the soft spots. Obviously, the injuries and the drops, those are things you want to see improve. But I thought that his hands were, yes, he had 6 drops, but I still felt like he had good hands and he would attack the football, high point it, and I thought he made some really good plays. I love that he's going to LSU, a team that is looking for a true X receiver and just the wide receiver factory that they have there at LSU. I think he's in for a big time year. Let's see if he can be healthy, but I definitely saw a little bit more this year than I did last year because I shared a lot of your same sentiments. But I just like the traits. I like the ability to create separation for a bigger receiver. And so I'm excited to see what he does this year for LSU.
I'm also not in the market of putting someone in a list that is coming off of an injury that costs him the entire season. That's also another thing too. I need to see how he comes back from that injury. And granted, Len's in a great spot in LSU, who over the last few years have taken on some transfer wide receivers and have done wonders with those transfer wide receivers. So, I'm holding out hope. This isn't a knock on Nick Anderson. I just want to see how he comes back from this injury.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's going to get targets. You got Nussmeier throwing him the football. You know that he's going to get targets. So,
yeah, absolutely. Now it's time for, I think, the most exciting and frustrating conversation of the entire video. That's going to be Nick Harbor. I mean, there's so much to say and so little to say at the exact same time. He is, I mean, I don't want to exaggerate or anything. He might be the best athlete I've ever seen.
He is the Anthony Richardson of wide receivers.
He might be the best athlete at the wide receiver position I think I've ever seen. He is ridiculous. I mean, the measurements are ridiculous. 6'5", 235 pounds. That's like insane. A tight end. I mean,
that's insane.
You look at this guy lining up on the outside, and he looks like an alien. I mean, the arms they look like they're dragging on the ground. He's got long arms. And the size is just ridiculous. Also, a guy that was back-to-back Gatorade Player of the Years in high school in both football and in track. So this is a guy that is got legitimate 4.3 speed. I'm not going to say 4.2 because I think that would blow my mind if he was able to get to that fast. The long speed is ridiculous. There are times where he really shows the ability to use his frame. I think the Alabama game is the best example of this. The touchdown late in the fourth quarter, he uses his body really well, shields off the defender, and makes a really impressive catch. That's kind of where the list of positives kind of run out, though, because yes, I have him at 12. This is strictly due to I think that this guy's upside is astronomically high.
Yeah, I agree with you too. And I don't usually do those type of things, but when you have a 6'5", 300, imagine 235-pound receiver that could run like he can, but he's like Bambi on ice. I mean, that's what Nick Harbor looks like to me because
that's genuinely a great comparison because he does look like a deer out there sometimes.
Because I mean, listen, you're 6'5", 235 pounds. You're not great. Change of direction. Separation, not there. Release, not there. The burst. How are you that fast and the burst isn't that? I mean, it's a one gear speed.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to, because there are ways that you can combat that in the NFL. There you have to have that breakaway type of speed. Nick Harbor has the breakaway type of speed, but that's it. There's no second gear. The burst is bad. The press is bad. How are you 6'5" and you're bad against the press? I don't understand that at all. I was thoroughly disappointed with how he played against the press. It was like he was scared to use him. Like, this guy should be DK Metcalf.
Yep.
But he's not. He's like Tyler Lockett. That's it, in terms of like physicality. So he just needs to learn how to play football. He is an exceptional athlete. But he doesn't know how to play football yet. And coming from me, sitting on my couch in New York, eating potato chips, watching him play SEC football, you might say, who the hell are you? But truly, I mean, if he if he was just a little bit more developed, even as a route runner per se. I mean, you're looking at a guy that should be going for 1,300 receiving yards, like
Yeah.
in college. But you look at the box score every week for South Carolina, and you're like, how did Nick Harbor only have 3 catches for 40 yards? And
I mean, he had multiple games where he had 0 receptions. I mean, 0 receptions against A&M, 0 receptions against Kentucky. How do you have 0 receptions against Kentucky? 0 receptions against Old Dominion. One thing I will give him, he did play edge in high school, so he is still relatively new to the wide receiver position.
Yeah, that's fair. Of course, yeah. You have to adjust. I get it. This is the year.
Yeah, if he doesn't break out this year, I mean, I don't know if it's coming. He'll still get drafted probably way higher than he should because of the trade.
Yeah, probably.
But I mean, the athletic, I have him at 12 because I just can't unsee, because the high flashes that this guy has, your jaw is on the ground. It's like, oh my gosh, how is anyone capable of doing what he is capable of doing? Let's see if we can put it all together. I mean, him and Lenora Sellers are in for big breakout years, and I think I believe that he can. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I think he will break out.
Let's say this. I think you and I could agree that if Nick Harbor could develop to the point where he could use a 10th of his abilities, you're looking at a top 3 receiver in the class.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, that's just how freakish of an athlete this guy is.
That's what I'm saying. He's just an absolute. He is going to have the DK Metcalf treatment. He is going to light it up at the combine, and then you're going to get into his film breakdown. You're going to be like, all right, well, this guy doesn't really know how to play the wide receiver position, but he's an unbelievable athlete. So I'm hoping it doesn't get to that point where at 6'4", 230 pounds of pure muscle, people were saying DK Metcalf was going to fail at the NFL level. That I don't get. But, there were certain qualms in his game that he had to work out. And it's the same with Nick Harbor.
All right, so our wide receivers 10 through 6. At number 10, I've got Elijah Surratt out of Indiana. At number 9, Kevin Concepcion at Texas A&M. At number 8, Bryce Lance from North Dakota State. At number 7, probably my only my guy in this class, Malachi Fields at Notre Dame. And at number 6, I've got Carnell Tate at Ohio State. So who do you have as your 10 through 6?
All right, number 10 and number 9, we have the same, and this is going to be something that you see for the next 10, really. It's pretty damn close. Elijah Surratt out of Indiana, Kevin Concepcion, Texas A&M, which I'm super excited for. What a transfer in, especially after losing Noah Thomas. Chase Roberts I have from BYU at number 8. Noah Thomas, talk about Texas A&M, from Georgia at number 7, and CJ Daniels from Miami at number 6. And coincidentally enough, now that I'm thinking about it, let's swap those two. I'm pretty sure I wanted to have CJ Daniels at 7 and Noah Thomas at number 6. So let's just play it like that, because that's how I think I might have given you the rankings wrong. That's how I do specifically remember Daniels at 7 for me, because I am very high on Noah Thomas. So let's switch those in our heads.
Fair enough. Let's talk about Elijah Surratt, as Gus Johnson calls him, Waffle House, because he's always open. I mean, this guy is awesome. He's awesome. I mean, the chemistry that he had with Curtis Rourke last year, particularly on the back shoulders, he's the best back shoulder receiver I've seen in a minute, because this guy catches everything.
Listen, Elijah Surratt now has Fernando Mendoza throwing him the football.
Yeah, this is going to be peak.
We're looking at someone that potentially could have 1,400 receiving yards this year. And I don't even think I would bat an eye. I almost expect it. I'm so excited. I had to cut you off. I'm so excited for this link up, because, you get someone that is as talented and as freakish as Fernando Mendoza throwing him the football to someone who's 6'2", 210 pounds he's just unreal. He's also someone that I don't think necessarily, maybe coming back to the football, he's elite. I think he does everything great. Really great. I don't think that there's one area where he super excels at, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. He is probably, in my opinion, in terms of speed, release, hands, separation, route running ability, he's probably the most well-rounded wide receiver in the class, in my opinion, maybe number 2, but he's definitely up there as a top 3 most well-rounded receiver in the class.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers, he had 957 yards and 8 touchdowns. Oh, look, I want to say he'll be a Biletnikoff candidate, but it's kind of hard with Jeremiah Smith still
Mm,
being in college football for anyone else to win that award. But, I mean, 59.3% contested catch rate, just 4 drops on 84 targets, which I'd say is pretty good. The guy does everything. He's got great hands. I mentioned the back shoulder fades, which I think he's really good at running those routes. His stop and go ability and the double moves I thought was really, really impressive. He knows how to use his frame. Great contested catch receiver. I mean, there's a lot to like. Maybe you'd like to see him be a little bit better in terms of against press coverage. I didn't think he got as much separation as he could have. And his speed is just okay. That's why
yeah,
he's at 10. I think he's a pretty average athlete, but I mean, he's still awesome. I mean, he's still going to be your prototypical X receiver at the next level. I think he is a day 2 receiver firmly, and I think he would have been a day 2 receiver last year had he come out. Comes back to Indiana for another year. You mentioned an upgrade at quarterback. I'm still pretty high on the Hoosiers going into next season. So,
yeah. I agree with you there. If I had to say one negative about Surratt that I wasn't a fan of was the hard cut change of direction was
mhm,
pretty lacking. I feel like there wasn't enough believability in the hard cuts, but the double moves are great, which
yeah,
makes no sense to me because the believability in most of his routes is so good, and then you get to like maybe a quick in, like a 10-yard in, and you're like, I know what this guy is doing before he even gets off the line of scrimmage. So, I mean, that's not really something I feel like you could improve on. I
mhm.
feel like in terms of twitchiness, quickness, that's not really something that wide receivers can get better at. Maybe they could slightly improve, but I think he's going to be extremely exciting. And like you said, it's a shame that Jeremiah Smith, the Ryan Williams out there of the world exist, because I think Surratt would be an easy top wide receiver candidate, not only as coming out in a draft, just in the whole nation.
Yeah, absolutely. And then our number 9, Kevin Concepcion. I'll just say I was disappointed with him so much in 2024. But his 2023
Yeah.
true freshman year was that good that he still made my top 10. I think we talked about it with Eugene Wilson. I think he had a better true freshman season than Wilson. He's really good. So talk about how excited you are and kind of what you think he can bring to an NFL team.
I like him so good as a vertical slot because he's not huge, but he's not small. You're looking at what, 5'11", 190. He's got more than enough respectable speed. Burst is good. Release is good. Speed is pretty good as well. The separation ability is there. Route running, not terrible either. And even his blocking ability, to be honest with you, surprised me a lot as someone that's, 5'11", 190. He's getting a huge uplift. Like we said, transfer up, going from NC State, you're going to Texas A&M. You're expected to be a national championship contender at some point very, very soon. Marcel Reed, he's going to get him the football. Concepcion's going to be that guy that is, it's funny because you transfer out Noah Thomas, you get in Kevin Concepcion, a little bit two way different wide receivers, but
Mhm.
you're going to get Concepcion the ball, in a gadget type of role. He's going to get the ball close to the line of scrimmage, let him work. I thought his hands were pretty bad last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's what really concerned me a lot. And that's why, honestly, going into the 2026 draft class, I had Concepcion in my head as like a top 3 to 5 wide receiver. And then you see the drops and just the lack of concentration. And you're like, wow, this is pretty poor. So I'm hoping the transfer to a huge school like Texas A&M kind of wakes him up. I think he'll bounce back very, very nicely. Like you said, he was so good in 2023 that he still makes a top 10
Yeah.
in a 2026 video.
He is just really great with the football in his hands. I mean,
Yeah,
they would get him the ball in jet sweeps. They'd use him out of the backfield. I mean, he's really good as a runner. He makes guys miss. He's dynamic. I liked his routes. I thought he was a really sharp route runner. Great speed, great feet. I just wanted to see a little bit. You mentioned the drops. That was a note that I had. I wanted to see a little bit more physicality from him. It just felt like he really shied away from contact. I mean, I know he's a slot, but I still wanted to see him 33% contested
sure.
catch. Not awesome. So I still have him at 9 because I love so much of what he can do already. And I think he's going to be. You mentioned. I think A&M. They're going to know how to get him the football, and he's going to have a.
I think he's going to be used properly. I think a lot of your concerns, contested catch rate for slot receivers, I'm not worried about. I mean, what's a contested catch for a slot fade probably is probably as much as you're going to get for a contested catch. I'm not necessarily worried about that. That's more of a timing route than anything else anyway. Also the physicality, I'm not necessarily concerned about. But it's funny because you mentioned that, because I agree with you in terms of shying away from contact. But then as a blocker, he was more than willing to engage. So it's interesting. I think maybe it's more of a personal health concern. Maybe shying away from getting those extra couple yards. Maybe it's a go into business for myself type of thing. And I don't hate that at all. But I think, like you said, whatever question marks we have are going to be answered at A&M. He's either going to be just the next fantastic slot receiver, who's going to be Moose Muhammad. So it's either way.
Yeah, absolutely. Bryce Lance. So I have him at number 8. I think it was. I'm probably going to forget this, but I believe it was Anthony Russo on X. He was talking about Bryce Lance. I was like, all right, let me get him on my watch list, and I was thoroughly impressed. The brother of Trey Lance, the quarterback. Where is Trey Lance these days? He's still in Dallas?
No.
Where's he at these days? I'm blanking on that.
I think Dallas released him. I don't remember where he sent. Did he sign back with the 49ers?
I don't know. Either way, he is.
While you're talking about Bryce Lance, I'm going to look it up.
He's the brother of Trey Lance, the quarterback, former number 3 overall pick. And look, I love a lot of what this guy can do. Excellent.
The Chargers.
He's on the Chargers. That's right. 6'3", 204 pounds. Really good route runner with some of the best hands in the entire draft class, I would say. Just 2 drops this past season on 99 targets. That is a 2.6% drop rate. Really, really good. He's physical at the catch point. He knows how to win the contested catches, 61.5% in those. Played really big in the big moments last year. Had 125 yards in the playoffs against South Dakota State, 107 yards in the championship against Montana State. So this is a big game player that is a really solid route runner. He's got great hands. He can be a vertical threat. He can win the 50-50 balls. The 2 areas that I worry about, he's a little bit older, just kind of sitting on the bench for the Bison, didn't really fully break out until this year, and he's only got really 1 great year of production up to this point. And then my other note on him, I don't think he's got the greatest speed to separate deep. A lot of those deep passes that he was getting were contested, and yes, he can win those, but I just don't think he's this burner, and he's an FCS player. And ultimately, that is going to be tough to see. We have seen so many FCS players go on to the Senior Bowl, shine out, and be a top 50 pick. I think Bryce Lance very well could be the next one. It's just kind of hard to put him any higher right now when we haven't seen him against.
I think you've been more than enough. I think you've been very generous up until this point.
What do you mean?
Like having it. You said I can't put him any higher. He's at what, 8?
Yeah, I mean, I still like him quite a bit. He played 1 FBS opponent, which was Colorado, and he had 32 yards. So we'll see how
this is where my problem lies with Lance. I think he's, for what he is, if you take him on his FCS footage, probably the best wide receiver in the FCS. Yeah. There's no going about that 100%. But yeah, I can't get over the fact that, he plays FCS competition. And granted, you're at probably the best FCS college to be at, and you play against some of the best competition: Montana State, North Dakota. They play all the good teams for the most part. But I just can't get over that. And like you said, until he makes the rounds around the NFL draft circuit, and we could really get a closer eye, because really there's not much to look at in terms of Bryce Lance, and on YouTube or all 22 for that matter. It's very challenging to find film on Lance, but until he makes those rounds, I'm not comfortable putting him into a top 20. But everything that you said is valid. He's a great player. I think that there's definitely going to be a role for him somewhere in a large capacity at the NFL level. I'm not comfortable yet putting an FCS player on there. He was close to 20 though. I was thinking about what I told you before we started recording, I was tempted just to put him on at 20 just to have him there, but yeah.
Yeah, it's totally fair. I was a big fan of this player, and yeah, I know I'm going to be in the minority here. I've got him at 8. Another player that you have very high that I didn't end up making my list was Noah Thomas from Georgia, now formerly of Texas A&M. So, talk to us about Noah Thomas.
I'm very surprised that he didn't make your list. I think we're looking at someone that if he reaches his full potential here at Georgia, probably looking at a first round pick this year. I know that's pretty bold of me to say, but Noah Thomas has really, besides for being slender at 6'5", 6'5", 205 pounds, I'd like to see him put on a little bit more weight. Catch point, contested catchability, it's all there. Red zone, he's a menace. Release is good enough. Really, I would say if I had to classify release, speed, burst, would probably all be around a B. He's not someone that's going to burn you, but he's someone that has more than enough athleticism, more than enough speed and quickness off the line of scrimmage where he's going to create that natural separation. His hands are good. I think he's good against the press. Very, very physical against the press is what I like a lot. Blocking, he's not bad either. He really ticks all the boxes for me. And this is a player that I've been able to watch with a little bit of a biased eye, but a little bit more closely because I try and watch every single A&M game that I can. And Noah Thomas does a lot of work when the ball is not in his hands either. So he's making a lot of plays for other people. He's just very, very dynamic. He's not someone, he really reminds me of Tet. Like in terms of, I think Tet really, maybe in terms of that, he may be a little bit more athletically gifted than Noah Thomas, but if we're looking for a Tet comparison for 2026, I would say Noah Thomas is your guy. I think that he really embodies what Mike Evans was to the Johnny Manziel, and I think that Noah Thomas is going to be huge for in an offense that he's probably not going to reach 1,000 yards. He's probably not going to reach 10 touchdowns. More of a balanced attack for Georgia. I think we're looking at a player that's going to have around 60, 70 catches, 800, 900 yards, and around 7 or 8 touchdowns. He's really going to open up some eyes for Georgia, especially in the red zone. I think he's one of the most well-versed, he executes his plays very well in the red zone as well. So I'm really excited to see. Kind of weird to say that stepping up from Texas A&M to Georgia, but that's exactly what he's doing in the national eye, especially.
Yeah, that's kind of where why I wasn't the highest on him. The production up to this point, he definitely caught fire towards the back half of last year. So it's really caught my attention. Just hasn't been the most productive. Very curious to see how he does at Georgia. But you're right. There is a lot to love about him. The size, really good. Excellent hands, great body control in the red zone, good quickness, speed. I thought he was pretty good after the catch. Like he made some really nice plays after the catch, which I liked. There were just I didn't think he was a great separator. There were times where I thought he kind of fought the ball a little bit, which I thought could get a little bit better. And he still feels like very raw, and his movements feel a little awkward at times. But I do think he will probably end up making this list. He was kind of in that tier as well with like Dane Key and Jeremy Bernard, who we talked about a little bit ago. So he was like right on the outside looking in. But yeah, I definitely do see what you're saying with him, and definitely a guy that I'll have a close eye on this year. Chase Roberts at BYU. Very interesting player. I liked him a lot more than I thought I was going to end up liking him. So what did you see with Chase Roberts? You're a little higher on him than I am.
Again, just another player. We sound like broken records, but it's either we're talking about a 5'10" player or a 6'4" player. And This is just another huge wide receiver, but he's just, so basically everything for the most part that I said about Noah Thomas holds true with Chase Roberts, except I think that Noah Thomas is a little bit better against the press than Chase Roberts is. One thing, though, is the change of direction ability for a 6'4", 210-pound receiver should not be what Chase Roberts possesses.
Mm-hmm.
The cut, the twitchiness for someone. When was the last time you heard twitchy and 6'4" in the same sentence? You're getting someone that can move like a traditional slot receiver, or someone that could play your X. I think Chase Roberts. What do I have him at 8? I think I have Chase Roberts at.
Yeah.
I wanted to put him even higher. I'm just such a big fan of what he brings to the table. Blocking ability as well, as you know, BYU, no block, no ball, basically. The hands are something that I think he could work on a little bit. I think he did have a couple of concentration drops here and there, but yeah, there's a lot to like about. Really, I think he's just more of an athletically gifted Noah Thomas for the most part. There's just so much to like about his game, and I mean, this is another guy that I think truly with development, I think you're looking at some team at the back end of the first round that could potentially take a chance on Chase Roberts.
Yeah, I mean, you knocked it out of the park. I was blown away with the footwork and the quickness. I was like, this guy just moves
Unreal.
different. He's really really good in that phase. So much to like. I mean, the advanced numbers again favor him. Caught 14 of 18 contested catches, almost 78%. Really great number. A guy that can work all three levels of the field. The reason I had him a little bit lower, I think I had him at 14, and I probably would put him a little bit higher if I were to redo this soon. Is I think that he is quick, but he's not very fast. And I didn't think he was a guy that was a really great long speed guy.
Yeah.
And because of that, I mean, he's 6'4". He sometimes looked like a big slot out there. I doubt he will get slot looks because he is so big, but that was a note that I had. I felt like he was more of a big slot at times, and I didn't think he created as much separation as I wanted to see. It doesn't matter when you're catching 80% of your contested catches, but still something that you'd like to see get better.
Well, yeah, you don't want to have every single target be a contested catch. You want to be able to throw into not as tight of a window every single time. Sure.
Yeah, he reminds me slightly of like a toned down version of Drake London. I think that would be kind of where I'm at with him. And like I said, if I were to redo this, I'd probably put him ahead of Nick Anderson at like 11. But he's a really good player, and I think I have him at 14. We'll just say 11 for the sake of it. Malachi Fields, I love this player. One of my favorite watches in the entire class. When we were preparing for our quarterbacks video, I was looking at Anthony Kandria, the former Virginia quarterback. And as I'm watching it, I had to stop what I was doing. And I was like, I got to see who is number 8 on Virginia. At Notre Dame now, a guy that I love. He is my number 7 receiver in the class. Great size, 6'4", 220 pounds. I thought his footwork at the top of his routes was remarkable. I think he has really quick feet for a big guy. I also think he has better speed than he gets credit for. He's really physical. He's got sound hands and is a willing blocker. There are some things
great blocker.
Yeah, I think he's one of, if not the best blocking receivers in the class. There's a lot to love about him. The vertical speed, the hands are phenomenal. A guy that had 800 yards last year, 800 yards the year prior. So he has over 1,600 yards in the last 2 seasons. I worry about the age. I believe he's 22. I think he'll be 23 at the time of the draft. He's a little bit of an older prospect. He isn't an awesome route runner or separator. No. He is very much a vertical threat for your offense. I like the physicality. I think it could be a little bit better at times. I'm really high on this player because, again, I like the traits. I love the size. I definitely think it'll be very curious to see how he's used at Notre Dame. They don't always utilize these big X's.
Look at Bo Collins.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens. I loved what I saw from him at Virginia, though, so I have him at number 7.
Yeah, I agree with basically everything you said. Blocking was the big thing for me. That was the highest graded area that I had for him. I think really as in the athletic department, when you're talking about release, separation, all that kind of stuff, not great. So that was really why I had him just a little bit lower. Mm-hmm. I thought, especially off the free releases, it still kind of looked like he was kind of stuck in quicksand for a little bit there. But, he's someone that is very interesting. And a 6'4", 220 pound wide receiver that's willing to block as well as he does immediately intrigues me. Everything else is just gravy at that point. Like you said, the consistency is huge too. 800 yards receiving the last 2 seasons. at a team that doesn't with a program that doesn't usually throw the football very well in Virginia kind of has me very curious to see what he can do at Notre Dame. A lot of mouths to feed at Notre Dame this year. So going to be, especially with Jeremiah Love in the backfield, it's going to be interesting to see how they get Malachi Fields, cooking. But if he could repeat again that 800, 900 yards with the offense that they have, we're looking at a big time top 100 prospect probably.
I think I'll go out on a limb. If he is to repeat that, I think he's a first round pick. I think he'd sneak into the first round. But CJ Daniels, and man, I wanted to have him higher so badly. I loved him. You might remember this. Last year, this was my guy. I loved him at coming to LSU from Liberty, and just didn't see the same consistency this past year. I've got him at 15.
Yeah.
You have him a lot higher. So talk to us about CJ Daniels.
I love really his ability to somehow, I feel like every time the camera panned to him, I didn't see a defender anywhere near him. He's good. He's really good in finding soft spots in zone coverage. Yeah, like I don't know really what went wrong last year at LSU with him. I had such high hopes for him. I really thought he was going to, be like Brian Thomas Jr., the second coming of Brian Thomas Jr. Well, maybe not to the same degree.
I think going into the year, I think I compared him to T. Higgins going into the year, and I just didn't see that player last year.
Yeah, I was super excited for that, but there's a lot to like. The hands are really the biggest thing for me. I mean, you just throw it anywhere near his catch radius or in the vicinity of CJ Daniels, he's going to make the catch. Blocking is more than willing and able to. Really, I mean, we sit here, I look for different things than you do. I look more for the quick hit intangibles, and long speed doesn't really kind of, I shouldn't say it shouldn't matter. Of course it matters, but I think wide receivers are better quick twitch than long speed, hands, blocking ability. I think CJ Daniels ticks a little bit more of my boxes than he ticks yours. I thought change of direction, he's really good. This is someone that we kind of looked at last year too, so we didn't have to look too much more into him. We thought he was going to come out. He didn't. Transfers to Miami. Now he's got Carson Beck throwing him the football, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I mean, you're going from Garrett Nussmeier to Carson Beck, so it kind of almost seems like a downgrade, almost. But Daniels is someone the size, the overall athleticism, the blocking tenacity, and the overall hands is really just what gets me to the point where I think he's a fringe. What I have him at 7. Well, on the reverse, I had him at 7. He's a fringe top 5 guy. The production history has been there as well. As long as he throws in at 800, 900 yard season, I feel like we're looking at someone that's probably going to be top 75. I wouldn't consider him anywhere near the first round, but maybe someone around that late day 2 area.
I mean, I agree with everything you said. I loved all of those things that you mentioned. The production last year definitely took a dip. He's not the best against press coverage or the most consistent separator, but like you said, it doesn't, like he does everything else so well. I mean, for what it's worth, I think I haven't really written this note on many players. He just there's like an it factor with him. Going back to Liberty, there's just something like the confidence level that he plays with that I really love. I love this player. I think he's going to be really good. I put him a little bit lower just because last year was very strange, and he's still, I think I had him at 15. I had him at 15. So we'll see kind of where he ends up, how he looks at Miami. He'll probably be their number 1 receiver. They lost a ton. Jacoby George, Isaiah Horton, Restrepo. So he very well could be the number 1 guy on that team. And if he produces, I agree. I think he could be a fringe top 5 receiver in this class. Probably the one that we have the biggest differing opinion on is Carnell Tate. And it's different in terms of our rankings, but I don't think we view him that differently as a player, because I'll just go through the positives that I have written down. He's 6'3", 191. He's shown the ability to be a really good route runner at all 3 levels, good frame, good hands, good blocker. And there's just he does a lot of things really good.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of negatives in his game. He was the wide receiver 3 for Ohio State last year. Does so many good things. I just don't think he does any great thing. And for me to still have him at 6 is just a testament to, the Ohio State program and how good I think he can be. But I didn't think he was a great athlete. I didn't think he had this like otherworldly speed. I
Yeah.
didn't think he was this like fantastic route runner that's like juking guys out of the shoes. I thought that he needed to bulk up a little bit more. I didn't think he was the most twitchy. I still have him at 6 because I think the good outweighs the bad pretty heavily. But talk to us about what you saw with Carnell Tate.
I just think he's a very average receiver. I feel like everyone, like I mentioned before we started recording, everyone that I have ahead of him excels at one specific thing at the very least. I don't think Carnell Tate excels at anything. I think, like you mentioned, I think he's good in some areas, blocking ability. His speed isn't that bad. His hands are okay. I thought he did everything okay to good. I never once have looked at Carnell Tate and go, yes, he does that excellent. I thought, like you said, I thought as a quick twitch athlete, I just didn't think it was there. Change of direction wasn't good for me. The release against the press, the separation. I think he got bullied a lot of times. He's just someone that I think the Ohio State lineage carries a huge name for. And we've wanted Carnell Tate to be so good for the last, couple seasons. And I just don't think it's going to be there. I think this is someone that if he gets drafted relatively high, I don't think that he's going to live up to the draft expectations. And, there's so many other guys that were drafted ahead of him in previous years that I think are kind of sway people into believing that Carnell Tate is a little bit better than he really is. I think he's a very average wide receiver. And where do I have him? I have him at like 16 or 15 or something, right?
Yeah, I think might have been 17.
I think he's a very average wide receiver. I think you put anyone else ahead of him on my list in his position, and I think they excel more than he does. That's just my opinion. Yeah. I agree with you. I kind of was hoping that he would go into this offseason and bulk up. 6'3" and 191 just doesn't sound like a great combination to me. Especially when you're not a great separator and you're not great against the press. You're not really that fast to begin with, so you might as well bulk up and do better in contested catch situations, do better against the press. And he really didn't. So I don't really know how much better Carnell Tate. I think we've already seen the ceiling of Carnell Tate. That's my biggest thing. I don't think we are seeing an ascending player going into the draft. We're seeing someone that we've already seen the best that he could be.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with that. We'll see kind of how he looks. He'll definitely get more targets with Buka gone. So we'll see kind of how he fares, but I have him at 6. Our top 5, pretty much the same list. At number 5, I got Eric Singleton from Auburn. At number 4, I've got Denzel Boston from Washington. At number 3, I've got Antonio Williams from Clemson. At number 2, I've got Mekhi Lemon from USC. And at number 1, I've got Jordan Tyson from Arizona State.
Yeah. All I have to say is I have Mekhi Lemon at 3 and I have Antonio Williams at 2. Everything else is the same.
Yeah. So Eric Singleton. I texted you the other day. I was like, why is no one giving Eric Singleton the praise that I think he should be getting? My early comp for him is Xavier Worthy because I think this dude is that explosive. He is ridiculous. I think this is a 4.2 speed guy. I'm not going to say with ease because I don't think that's easy for anyone to do, but I think this guy is that gifted as an athlete. Just a really, really good player that has solid hands, really, really twitchy as a route runner. And I love the way that Georgia Tech utilized him out of the backfield. They were able to get him the ball in different looks, and he had the speed to make big-time plays. He still has a ways to go as to like get a little bit more nuanced as a receiver. The route running could get a little bit better. Had some struggles against more physical coverages. His body control with the ball in the air, I thought was inconsistent because there were times where it looked really, really good. There were other times where I felt like he waited till the ball came to him and just thought that he could get a little bit more advanced there. And he is 5'10", 178. If he was 6 foot, I think I would probably have him at 3, but he's a little bit smaller, he's thinner, and the production just hasn't really been there. Granted, we talked about it with Eric Rivers. This is an offense that didn't pass the ball very much. So at Auburn with Jackson Arnold and Cam Coleman, which, my gosh, how is any team in the SEC going to stop that duo? Yeah. I mean, this team is going to be really fun. I'm I'm all in on Eric Singleton. I think he's going to be a really good player.
Yeah, we're looking at a potential with that offense. You're looking at a potential sleeper in the SEC as a
Yeah.
team that could. I mean, on the defensive side, they're just so super solid too. They were actually in my last video as a sleeper team to make the college football playoff. Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton is by far, in my opinion, the best duo in college football. I just think you're getting so much of a yin and yang with them too. I mean, you're getting, Coleman, who is just an absolute freak. You're getting Singleton, who is probably the best gadget slot type archetype wide receiver in the class, in my opinion. I think he's really going to flourish. I think having Coleman on the other side of him is going to unlock what we want to see in Eric Singleton. I mean, I'm just super excited to see this. Everything that you said, you kind of nailed it on the head. I don't really have anything to add, but I think this transfer is going to unlock what we think Eric Singleton can be.
Kind of going back to Cam Coleman. I know this is next year. We're not talking about Cam Coleman. Am I crazy to think Coleman might be better than Ryan Williams?
No, I think full out he's better than Ryan Williams.
I think Cam Coleman is an unbelievable talent. I'm super excited about this wide receiver duo at Auburn next year. Denzel Boston, you take it away on this one, because I know you were pretty excited to talk about Denzel Boston.
Yeah, I mean, I know I mentioned it before about Tet McMillan being, what did I say? Noah Thomas, I think I said, kind of like a comp. I think Denzel Boston is literally Tet McMillan. Like, they have the same exact strengths, in my opinion. I just think, Boston is just unreal. 6'4", 209 pounds. Great hands. Fantastic contested catchability. Fantastic blocker. I mean, right there, those are three things that, I salivate over. Really, the concern with Tet last year was his ability as an overall long speed type of guy, his change of direction. And that's really what my qualm with Denzel Boston is that he's not a big change of direction guy. He's not going to blow you away with his long speed. Actually, against the press, for someone that's 6'4", 209, I wasn't necessarily impressed with him against the press. But, this is someone that I think you throw it's a true screw it. Denzel Boston is down there somewhere, and he's probably going to make the catch. And I think he's going to be an absolute menace in the red zone too. I mean, this is someone that, look at those arms. I mean, he could probably scratch his ankle standing up straight. I mean, his arms are long. He's a strong player that plays he plays even stronger than he actually is. So I think you're looking at a classic X. The meaning of an X wide receiver in today's NFL has changed over the years, but you're looking at a true X type of wide receiver that he's throw it up and get it, and you're going to make those tough catches down the field, and you're going to be a red zone beast. And I think that's exactly what Denzel Boston is. And I'm surprised that people are a lot lower on him than we are.
Yeah, I think it's the athleticism, same as you. That's why I don't have him at 3. Not the most polished athlete. I think the burst was not amazing. I liked his speed, but it wasn't like fantastic or anything. He's still awesome. I mean, the number 834 yards, 9 touchdowns last year, 54.5% contested catch rate, just a 4.5% drop rate. I mean, this is a guy that made all the big plays last year for Washington, and Washington kind of quietly turned it into a really, really good school in terms of producing skill positions. Odunze, McMillan, and not Jalen Polk. Now, that's a story for another day. But Denzel Boston is, I think, a really good player. We both have him at number 4. My number 3, your number 2 is Antonio Williams. I loved this guy last year. I would have liked him if he came out. I thought he could have been a pretty high draft pick. Comes back to complete what might be one of the most – I mean, we talk about Auburn having a really good receiver room. I mean, Clemson with Bryant Wesco and Antonio Williams, I mean, this is a really, really fun group. So you're a little bit higher on him. So talk about Antonio Williams.
And a little bit higher, meaning like literally slightly higher than him. But – dude, it's just the overall speed. I think if Eric Singleton wasn't in this draft class, and it's not necessarily the speed totally, it's the burst for me. It just looks like every time Antonio Williams catches the football, there is not only a second gear, there's a third gear. It's like he's shot out of a cannon. He's just such a dynamic type of player. You say Singleton is more of your, Xavier Worthy. I feel like Antonio Williams embodies Xavier Worthy just a little bit better for me, because I feel like there's that catch me if you can type of X factor with Antonio Williams, where I do feel like a lot of defenses just cannot catch him. A lot of other things too. One thing that I kind of harp on a lot, and obviously if you've been watching this video, the change of direction, the hard cut change of direction was a little bit disappointing for me, especially for a player as athletic and dynamic as him. But overall, I thought the change of direction was good, just not as good as it could have been for someone as dynamic of an athlete as he is. Separation, hands, release, it was all there for me. Really, it's what you see is what you get with Antonio Williams. And I mean, Cade Klubnik has, like you said, Bryant Wesco, Antonio Williams. There's no reason why Cade Klubnik shouldn't be a front runner for the Heisman with those guys. But yeah, Williams is someone that I just think is super electric. Probably the most electric wide receiver in the class for me. I love watching him with the ball in his hands.
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. I don't really have anything to add. He can win at all three levels. Excellent release package. I thought he broke out of his routes well.
Yeah.
Really good after the catch. I will say he's 5'11", 195. I feel like he's smaller than that personally. Like when you look at him, he feels like more of a guy that's probably going to be a slot receiver.
Sure. Which that's pretty deadly.
Yeah. On top of that, I think he had 8 drops last year. Didn't have the greatest hands in the world, but a guy that I think is a true ball winner to all three levels and just dynamic athlete with the football in his hand. So I'm a big fan of Antonio Williams. Mekhi Lemon was, for me, the most pleasant surprise because I didn't really know what to expect with Mekhi Lemon. I'd seen some people had him at wide receiver 1, but a lot of the people I had been listening to, I just hadn't seen him on at the top of a lot of these rankings. And Mekhi Lemon is an incredible wide receiver. I mean, one of my favorite receivers that I watched in this entire class. I mean, there were multiple plays where I was just going nuts because this guy understands the receiver position very well. Yes. 5'11", 195, same size listing as Antonio Williams. He feels bigger than Antonio Williams, though.
Yeah.
I can't quite, take that for what you will. He is a guy that I think has true inside-outside versatility, fantastic hands for the position. This is a guy that just caught everything. Just one drop on 67 targets this past season for USC. The way he whipped at the top of his routes, I don't know another word for it, but it was so quick. It was in the snap of a finger. He broke out of his route so quickly. Yeah. He is really, really electric after the catch. I mean, a guy that had 379 yards after the catch this past season. He's a guy that if you get him the ball and there's green grass in front of him, he has the speed to turn it into a big play. It's another thing I love about him, the speed and explosiveness. Yeah. As the kids change of direction is seamless. I mean, this guy, it's ridiculous just how easy he is able to change direction. I don't have very many notes of things I don't like. He might be a better slot receiver at the next level just due to his size. But even then, I think he could be one of the best slot receivers in the league because of the athleticism, because of the ability to just separate at such a high level. On top of that, maybe the contested catch rate should get a little bit better. Just a 46.2%. Again, he's a slot receiver, though. That's a pretty damn good number for a slot. My early comp forms Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think this guy is he's a really, really good talent. And, USC, another school that doesn't get talked about enough of just producing elite receivers. I think Mekhi Lemon is a first-round pick next year. I'm a huge fan of this player, and there's just not really much that I dislike about his game.
Yeah, I think the only thing for me that why I flip-flop Williams and Lemon is just I think Williams just has overall, whereas I think Lemon has better burst than speed. I think Antonio Williams is just all out an absolute burner. Whereas, Lemon can obviously, he's very, very fast, but I think his burst is fantastic. But overall, I don't think he has the long speed that Williams quite possesses. But yeah, the change of direction is unbelievable. It looks like he's being controlled with a joystick. That's really what it looks like. It's quite incredible. The concentration, the hands, unbelievable. You nailed it on the head. The blocking ability, too, you didn't mention. great blocker. I'm not asked to do a whole lot of blocking, but really what I saw was very impressive, especially for someone that's 5'11", 195. Very, very impressive. And I think we're looking at a lock for a first-round pick here.
I wanted so badly to put him at wide receiver 1 because I think he is so dynamic.
I agree.
That I was like, really, I had an internal struggle with it, but can't deny Jordan Tyson. I mean, this guy is awesome. Do you have a comp for him early on? Because I couldn't really think of a player that's quite like this right now. I thought maybe like a George Pickens, but I think he's better than a George Pickens.
He's way better than George Pickens. Honestly, if you put, I know it's kind of crazy to say, and I don't usually like doing this, but if you put an established NFL wide receiver in George Pickens and Jordan Tyson in the same room, I'm probably picking Jordan Tyson 10 times out of 10. I just think what he really lacks, because he doesn't have good long speed. That I think we could both agree on. The long speed just truly isn't there. Everything else is so good, though. I mean, like, everything that I look for. Release. Probably one of the best releases in the class. Separation. Change of direction. Blocking, he was really good. Hands could clean up just a little bit. But everything else is just so dynamic. I loved watching him. I mean, he was the offense for Arizona State in the second half of the year.
I mean, he was. I was talking to a coworker about this, and I was like, because I was telling him I was preparing for this video, and I was like, dude, like, just remember the name Jordan Tyson. And I was like, if Jordan Tyson doesn't go down for Arizona State, I think they beat Texas. Like, straight up, I think they beat Texas in the playoffs. This guy is a difference maker.
He's so good.
His footwork, I mean, for a guy that's 6'2", 195, he is so quick with his feet. He is a really good separator for a bigger receiver, which I was kind of blown away with. The ball tracking ability, really impressive. I will say I'll probably have to go back. There were times where I felt like he took plays off as a blocker, which was one thing that I noted on him. Ultimately, I'm not too worried about that. Up and down against press coverage, there were great moments. There were some moments where I thought the release could be a little bit better. But what he lacks for in speed, he makes up for quickness because he is just that good.
Yeah.
He had 7 drops last year. I agree. The hands could get cleaned up, but there's just not a lot to like. You're nitpicking to try and find things with Jordan Tyson that you don't.
I'll tell you what. Jordan Tyson declares last year, if he was able to, he's wide receiver 1 for me last year.
That's going to do it for us in this video, guys. 20 wide receivers plus a few honorable mentions in there as well. Leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you are new. Let us know who you think we missed out. Who do you think should have been in our top 20s? Stay tuned. We've got another positional rankings coming very soon for you guys. We'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.
Adios.